It Comes at Night is A24's most recent release and the best horror movie I've seen all week. It's directed by Trey Edward Schultz and stars the likes of Joel Edgerton, Cameron Ajojo, I think that's how you say that, and then a bunch of other names that I don't know at this moment in time, but I am very interested in looking into their credentials and seeing what they've done in the past and what they're doing in the future. So, this is definitely going to be among my shorter reviews and less edited reviews, because there's not much to say about this movie. What I've come to notice is that when you see a good movie, you're not talking as much as when you see a bad movie, because when you see a bad movie, you're just upset and irritated, and you yell at your camera, and you start making annoying points that no one really cares about. That's what happens when you see a bad movie. But when you see a good movie, like what I just saw, there isn't as much to talk about. So this is likely going to be a shorter video. I very much like this movie. This is a very good movie. It's produced by A24, like I said earlier in the video, which is awesome. I love seeing pretty much everything they do. I obviously don't always get around to seeing their movies. They're very often opened in a limited release, so it can be difficult to get around to actually seeing their movies. But as often as I can, I get out to the theater to see the newest A24 release. I can't wait for A Ghost Story, which comes out, I believe, in early July. And is this the best A24 movie I've seen? No, it's not. It's nowhere near the quality of The Lobster, in my opinion, which I think is the best A24 movie I've seen. I never saw The Witch. Moonlight is up there. You know, you've got great A24 movies up there. I really enjoy Swiss Army Man. Is this A24's worst movie? Not by a long shot. A24, despite being a very good company, has made some mediocre, shaky movies. And I enjoyed this a little more than Free Fire, if we're comparing A24, but this is a very well-made movie. It just is. It's a well-put-together, well-directed, visually great movie. And it's interesting because on IMDb it's listed as a horror mystery. I think that's incorrect. I think that the genre, or genres, that this movie falls under is interesting because it's not even on IMDb. This is a drama thriller film. It just is. Are there frightening moments of this movie? Yes, but I wouldn't go so far as to call it a horror movie. The only really terrifying scenes are at night, because hence the title. In the title, it comes at night. So the stuff comes at, and then it's scary, you know. But yeah, if you're worried about seeing this movie because you think it might be too scary, don't. I'm not a big fan of horror movies. I don't really understand the idea of paying to have yourself be scared. I've always thought that was kind of stupid. But, and I'm kind of a chicken shit when it comes to horror movies, but this movie did not frighten me to the point where I was like, I want to get up and leave. Is it intense? Hell yeah, it's intense. I'll get to that in a second. Let me start, though, with what really forms this movie and what really makes it good. The basic reason behind why this is a good movie, and that's the direction. Trey Edward Schultz knew what he was doing with this movie. He clearly had a vision for this movie, and unlike The Mummy last week, in which there were 3 screenwriters and not one of them was the director, you could tell Trey Edward Schultz knew exactly what he wanted to happen with this movie, and he was able to bring it to life, seeing as he was the director and seeing as he was the screenwriter. This movie is very consistent the entire time in its mood, its grim, dark tone, because he had full control over this thing. A24 likely was not leaning over his shoulder going, you do this, you do this, you do this, like a lot of big film companies do. He was able to take his vision and see it the whole way through, and that complements a lot of things that happen in this movie. It, at the end of the day, like I said, is why this movie is good and well made and well done. Visually, it's very appealing. His direction lends very well to the cinematographer's job, who was able to do a lot of really nice and interesting things. And you could tell they'd definitely seen The Revenant before making this movie. They make a lot of similar lighting choices. A lot of times because when it's nighttime, things are solely lit by lanterns or by flashlights, and they make it still visually appealing to look at even when it's dark, and it adds to that intensity of the movie, because this is kind of a thriller film at the end of the day, like I said. So it's very, very nice to be seeing a movie that's willing to take risks with its cinematography and its lighting and its production design, because the set pieces are minimal, but they look very nice. This movie takes place pretty much for the entire runtime in one condensed area. And when you have something like that happening, it can be difficult to keep audiences engaged. But if they make you feel claustrophobic and condensed, then they've done their job making this kind of cramped movie, which is what this thing is going for. It takes place in a house, and then every now and then they go into the woods. So they make a very impactful movie through that, and I think a lot of that, the majority of that, is lent to Trey Edward Schultz. He did a very good job immersing audiences in the screen, and that's what they were looking to do. Touching more on that condensed feeling, it really does add to the intensity, because they're, like, and that's, sometimes people don't understand this too well, but, like, if you have a closed-in hallway that a character is walking through, you're likely going to feel more scared, because it's likely that there's something at the end of the hallway that is going to terrify you. This movie does a very good job building tension and holding that tension with you when there should be tension. This is not a movie that is terrifying for the entire hour-and-a-half runtime. There is a lot of time set aside for character development, for character interaction, and for build-up to different things that are going to happen at different points in the movie. But when it needs to be intense, which is at night, it's very intense. And it's able to switch between that condensed feeling of this house and these hallways to this bigger feeling of the woods and the trees, and not knowing maybe it's behind this tree or whatever they're looking for. They do a very, very good job with that. A lot of that is camera work, a lot of that is keeping that grim mood, a lot of that is the lighting. Again, all kind of links back to Trey Edward Schultz and what he was trying to do. The performances in this movie are very good. Movies like this, you don't walk out of and go, holy shit, you know, he was so great, because a lot of people have different opinions on what makes a great performance. Heath Ledger as the Joker is one kind of performance, whereas Casey Affleck in Manchester by the Sea is one kind of performance. You have a very immersed into your character, making everyone forget you're an actor kind of performance, and then you have a subtle character piece kind of performance. This movie is leaning much more to the Manchester by the Sea side. All of the performances, in this movie are very subtle. They're very down to earth. They're very low. They talk very low. But that's what they had to do, because I'll keep linking it back to the mood of the movie. It's a very grim, dark, depressing movie. If you walk out of this movie feeling happy about yourself, I don't really know what to tell you. You could be a sociopath. But you have these performers that are given this script, and I'll get more into the script in a little bit. They don't have the Joker monologues to work with. They're very subtle, down-to-earth performances, and that's what you were looking for. Again, it immersed you more into the story because you felt like these were real people in this very realistic situation. Despite the fact that this is, in a way, a zombie apocalypse movie, it is a realistic movie. For the most part, because you have movies like this, which you could kind of see happening, and then you have movies like Shaun of the Dead, which probably is never going to happen. I fucking hope not, at least. But those performances really complement the movie, and I have to give the actors credit for that. Joel Edgerton has really showed, especially, I'm just pointing to him specifically because I don't know a lot of the rest of the actors. They did a very, very good job. Edgerton's son does a great job. The entire other family. There's two families in this movie, and then the other family has a husband, wife, and a little boy, a very little kid. And the little kid doesn't talk too much, probably just because he's a child actor. He's a couple lines, but he did a very good job. The husband and wife did a very good job. But Joel Edgerton has really grown on me recently, especially because he's been picking his projects better. I think before he was sort of trying to make a name for himself, and now he's more so like, okay, people know who I am, I can do great movies. He did Midnight Special last year, which I think is one of the more underseen movies. Didn't see Loving, but I heard he's great in it. He was nominated for a Golden Globe. So he's grown on me more and more. He's great in this movie again, and I hope to continue to see not just him, but all these performers in more movies. The structure of this movie is very interesting, and it's, well, in a way, it's been seen and kind of been done before. It fits this movie with the way they're doing it. I don't want to spoil it because the structure is it's how the entire movie plays out. You pretty much grasp onto it pretty early on and how the movie's going to play out in terms of this scene here, this scene here, this scene here. It's pretty easy to grab from the beginning, and I liked the way they did it. It added something to the movie for me, especially for one specific character who, with this structure, is continuously building and building and building throughout the movie. It felt natural. It felt like this is actually happening to this character, and it's reflected in his interactions with the others. So I think that the structure of this movie became very important, not just for the plot movement, but for the character development. I'm gonna get into the one thing I didn't like about this movie. There is one thing, and it's partially why I'm stopping it from calling a great movie, but it's also not. It's just it's one of those movies you don't walk out of and you're cheering in your head and you're going, wow, that was phenomenal. It's a well-made movie. But the main gripe I have is sort of the script. It's a weak screenplay. It's not really anything special. It's pretty basic. There are a lot of lines in this movie, a lot of lines of dialogue that are just sort of like, yeah, you know, that's probably the most formulaic thing you could have said in this situation. But what's nice about it is if you've seen this movie, you kind of know what I'm talking about. The script is sort of overshadowed in this movie. This is mainly a visual film. There's not a whole lot of dialogue between characters, and when there is, the scenes are pretty brief because it's a pretty short movie. But it's just kind of a bland script. There's really not much to it. Like I said about Trey Edward Schultz's vision, it was definitely a lot more visual in terms of a vision than characters talking to each other, like Aaron Sorkin's visions are, just for an example. So you obviously had something going on there where he's definitely more of a visual guy as opposed to a writer, because a lot of it is pretty formulaic and pretty by the books and just kind of, you know, been there, done that. But like I said, it's overshadowed by the movie and the visuals and the performances and the intensity. You sort of forget about the script, but then, this movie has its fair amount of scenes between characters talking, mainly one-on-ones with different characters, and you're watching them and you're just kind of going, yeah, you know, it's okay. It's alright. And sometimes it has the ability to take you out of it or even bring the pace to a weird place, but again, it's more often than not overshadowed by the rest of the film. So overall, this is a very good movie. It's not A24's best, and it's not their worst, and you're probably not going to walk out of this movie feeling pretty good about yourself. But I would recommend checking it out. I think if you could find a theater where it's playing, it's worth the hour and a half. It's quick, it's short, and by God, it's not The Mummy. It's not The Mummy. See this movie. It's very, very good. Very good performances, especially if you respect filmmaking or you want to be a director when you grow up. I think this is, in a way, kind of an important movie to watch to understand tension and pacing and how that kind of stuff should be done. So, what did you guys think? Have you seen It Comes at Night? Have you not seen It Comes at Night? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.